an internet plan for all. So this has to deal with Senator Bernie Sanders. And this is something that's pretty revolutionary. So what exactly is his plan for the internet?
Well, to be clear, it's only revolutionary in the U.S. I mean, a lot of other countries like South Korea is already decades ahead of us in this kind of respect. So modern life is increasingly impossible to live without internet. But according to the FCC, more than 31% of Americans, which is, about 100 million people, still lack access to high-speed broadband connections. Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders wants to change that, releasing a lengthy $150 billion high-speed internet for all plan that would expand rural access to broadband, treat the internet like a public utility, as well as break up internet, telecom, and cable titans, which, in that you can also assume from bring back net neutrality, which is would be nice. And this goes even past that. The lack of high-speed internet and the disparity of access as well as a well-known problem in the U.S. Earlier this year, Microsoft claimed that 162.8 million people, or more than half the people in the U.S., don't have access to internet speeds of 25 megabits a second. That's a relatively slow connection, and you know that if they have it in the U.S., because whatever price means whatever, 25 means like 5 or 7, so there you have it. Meanwhile, 24% of rural Americans say that access to high-speed internet is a major problem, compared to 13% of those who live in urban areas and 9% that live in suburban areas, according to Pew Research. At the core of Sanders' plan are New Deal-esque grants totaling $150 billion to municipalities and states to build out infrastructure for publicly owned, cooperative, or open access broadband networks. This would be great. We're talking about this effectively nationalizes telecommunications in a way, and very much like healthcare, you don't need it to be for profit. You want innovation, you want all that, but if you have fiber cable everywhere, you just trade out boxes, it's pretty straightforward. But America itself generates so much value based on internet. Can you imagine what would happen to online sales, to video games, to movie rentals, to Netflix if everyone could watch it without it buffering every 5 seconds, guys?
Well, finally we'll be catching up to the rest of the world, because our system is heavily antiquated, and now more than ever, our lives are connected with social media. I mean, you guys are watching us right now online, and look, I'm pretty sure that there are many people all across this country that don't have access to the internet. They're lacking information, and the thing is, as time moves on, our lives are going to be more and more connected with our phones, with our emails, with where we consume our entertainment, and it's all going to be online. And with such a demand, we have to update our infrastructure, especially when it comes down to doing everything on the internet. I mean, even our banking is done online now. Like, all the traditional norms that we once knew are going to be irrelevant at this point in time, and the internet is where it's at. And right now, the United States is in a point of stagnation. And here we have, once again, Senator Bernie Sanders leading the way. He's showing his consistency of being correct on an issue, and this requires a huge amount of investment and financial workings so that we can have an updated internet infrastructure. Paul?
There's so much about this that I think is important to bring up. So I think of net neutrality. We talked about that a lot a few years ago, about a year ago or so, the JIT-Pi and the FCC and all of that nonsense.
Giant mug of
Reese's. Yeah.
I forgot that he had that giant mug.
It's silly.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the idea is, hey, your internet should be treated the same way as electricity or water. It should be a common carrier, right? You shouldn't have tiered internet access. We shouldn't have corporations deciding what is the appropriate or inappropriate speed. There's a reason why, I forget what the exact figure is, but it's in the high 80% of people in this country, maybe above 90% even, only have one option for a high-speed internet provider. That option usually gets muddled in those types of surveys, because they will include cell phone carriers as high-speed internet carriers. And it's like, I'm sorry, just because somebody has, I don't know, Verizon or an AT&T account, that's not their broadband internet. And they still include things like ISBN as broadband internet. And it's like, I'm sorry, things that were cutting edge technologies from the early 90s don't count. Let's be honest. That's not high speed. Anecdotally, I have a friend who's Korean. He's a coding friend of mine, and he was telling me a story about when some family members of his from South Korea had come to visit him here in the United States. He's been living here for a couple of decades. And this was in the early 2000s. He was real happy. He had just gotten cable internet. It's nice and fast, you know, whatever it was, 30 meg down, 10 meg up, something like that. And his family were like, oh, can we get on your internet? And they're like, sure. And they're like, your internet is so slow. How do you guys deal with this? And he was like, really? I was just so happy. I finally had fast internet. We can watch videos and stuff like that. And he's like, no, man, everyone in South Korea has fiber internet. Everyone, all the way out in the sticks, everyone. It's nationalized. This is a thing that everyone in South Korea has. The fact that we allow companies to basically segment up the country and be like, all right, you get that area, I'll get this area, we get this area, let's all drive the cost up, never improve anything because nobody really knows any better. They're just milking it for all it's worth. And municipal internet is the way to go. That's the way to do it. Hey, you know what? We should vote as a society that we can make a better internet, and it should be free and it should be a common carrier, and let's just do it. Like, that's not a hard thing to do.
No, it's not.
I want to add in that this is actually, I mean, I almost want to feel like I have to disclaim some stuff that actually this is really beneficial for Hard Lens Media. Because right now on YouTube, thanks to their algorithm, about 75% of their suggested traffic gets pushed over to the standard MSM, Fox, CNN, MSN talking channels. Whereas we share with a few hundred, maybe a few thousand other news channels that remaining 25%, if that. So we would actually directly gain from this flattening out, and we would actually be able to grow faster than we are right now.
I just want to have better ping in my video games, guys. That's all I'm saying.
And also, more importantly, too, you know, just the very fact you said that story, you know, you have people from other countries laughing at our internet. You know, we like to pride ourselves in being number
invented
one.
it.
Granted, we invented it, but now we're behind. The rest of the world, look, I don't care whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever your political affiliation is, just know this. The rest of the world is moving on without us. They are upgrading their internet faster without us. They are ahead of us. And all of a sudden, what? Do we think that the Democrats and Republicans in Washington, D.C. seem to know better? No, these guys are also bought off by these same corporations who want to keep you guys in stagnation, who wants to make sure that you don't have the same kind of information and power like everyone else across, in other countries. Because just imagine if we had faster, more capable, more efficient internet. People would communicate with each other more effectively. People would demand things from their government more effectively, and we can start getting things done. But here it is, Bernie Sanders. He's aware of the issue, which is why, once again, he proves he should be the nominee and go forward into the general election, because we need politicians, especially leaders, to step up and acknowledge that the internet is the future, and Bernie Sanders is the one leading the way. We have to move on to our next. Go ahead.
I got one little quick anecdote to share also. I remember this is a story, and I obviously don't have it in front of me because I wasn't planning on sharing it, but from about 10 years ago even, so when DOCSIS 3.0 as a standard for cable internet sort of was coming into vogue, there was a township, I want to say it was in North Dakota, I could be wrong on that, but they wanted AT&T to upgrade them to DOCSIS 3.0. It's just such a massive speed increase, and AT&T basically told their customer base there, because there was no other company that handled high-speed internet, they're like, no, it's too expensive. That township did it themselves. They voted to put it in themselves, and they did it themselves. And part of the argument that let them do that was they said, we've run the numbers on how much it would cost to put DOCSIS 3.0 to the curb for every household to make it compatible with this new cable technology. The amount of money that AT&T would have to charge just to the people in this area would be an additional, it was a very small number, it's like an additional $1.50 per customer for a month. That would cover the entire rollout cost of this infrastructure upgrade. AT&T in that case was being obstinate because they just didn't want to do it, because they're going to pull in that money regardless. They have a lock on that community, and they are going to just continue to be able to milk them for every little bit and drag their feet every step of the way, because at that point, it's not about providing a high quality service. It's not about providing a high quality product. They have literally no competition. This is an oligopoly that has separated up the American market in a way that functionally is monopolistic.
Right.